So I realized when I looked at the game design document that we didn't actually have the control or how the ball moves off of the bat. So we should probably add that. So that's what we're going to do. And it's going to be as simple as saying the ball bounces off the bat depending on which side and how far to the edge the ball hits the bat. This gives the player control over where the ball goes. So as simple as that. I can zoom in, I guess, so you can see better. So it's right here. This is the additional stuff here. The ball bounces off the bat depending on which side and how far from the edge of the bat, or how far to the edge the ball hits the bat. This gives the player control over where the ball goes. Okay? That way, the player can actually control how the ball hits off the bat, and therefore can make the bat do various things, or make the ball do various things that you want it to do, depending on the angle at which you hit the bat. So now that we've added it to the game design document, we're ready to actually add it to the actual game. So I'm going to click back to GameMaker. You'll notice that I've gone ahead and added a rectangle of bricks. This was the same rectangle I made yesterday. So it's 12 bricks wide, 4 bricks tall, 48 total bricks. Okay. It is, if we're counting just grid spaces, it is about, the top of it is about 7 grid spaces from the top of the screen. Just kind of, that's how I'm setting it up. You can set it up however you want to. Doesn't matter. Okay. But we're going to go back to the workspace, and I'm going to go to the ball object, because we're going to be working almost all in the ball object today. The bat really has no part in moving things other than moving the bat to get in the way. Okay, so I'm going to add the collision event with the bat to the ball object. Okay, and at this point, this is where we need to do what we said we were going to do earlier, which is we need to back the ball up one spot, which is back the ball up to its previous X and Y. Then we're going to point the ball in the direction of the center of the bat, and then we're going to flip it around so that the ball will go off of the bat at a similar angle. Okay? So, first things first, we're going to jump the ball to a point. So, let's see if I remember where that one is. I believe it's in movement. That's sent point direction. I think I want, let's see. Oh, I want this one here. Jump to point. So we're going to click and drag that puppy out. I'll zoom in so we can see it really well. Right? So we'll use jump to a point, but we're going to use the relative feature, right? So we're going to add or subtract. What we're going to do, actually, no, we're not going to add or subtract. We're just going to use the previous X and Y. So, incidentally, there are two, there it is. There are two coordinates that are the previous X and Y. I'm just going to borrow those. X previous, Y previous. So, for X, I'm going to put X previous. For Y, I'm going to put Y previous. This is the previous, the previous X and Y value that the ball was at prior to when it hit. Okay? It's an easy way to back up the ball enough to where it's going to be away from the bat and stop running the collision event. So we're not going to use relative, we're just going to use the straight up X previous, Y previous. Step 1, done. Step 2, point the ball in the direction of the bat, and specifically the center of the bat. Okay, so this is the set point direction block, one that's pointing at a dot. This will set the direction of the ball based on some point in space. Now I can give a specific point. If you remember, we used this in the maze game to start out with getting Mr. Smiley to point towards Mr. Skull. Right? We used this same block. So it's going to point in a direction. Right? Now, what's nice is that I could refer specifically to the bat. Yes, true. But whenever you have a collision, there's also a little code word you can use called other. Other refers to the other object that you're colliding with. So even though we don't have to do this, I want to show you this because this is something you may use in future games. Other refers to the other object you're colliding with. So even if I don't know what the object is, I can say other dot whatever. So in this case, other dot x. Right? X is the x coordinate of the other thing I'm colliding with, in this case the bat. And I'm going to use other dot y as well. And we're not using relative on this either. We want the absolute x and y values. And we remember that because we set the origin of the sprite for the bat to the center of the sprite, the x and y coordinates for the bat refer to the center of the object. Therefore, when I say other.x, other.y, now we're pointing the direction of the ball in the direction of the center of the bat. Step 2 done. Step 3, turn the ball around. Okay, we're going to set the direction variable. Click and drag that underneath. And we're going to add 180. So we're not going to set it to 180 because that would be straight down. Yes? No, be straight left. I want to put in 180 for the direction, but click relative because relative is going to add 180. Right? And clicking relative will always add. So I want to add 180 to my direction because my direction is going to be expressed as an angle, right? The angle is expressed just like you express angles in math. Straight right is 0. Rotating counterclockwise around is a positive number of degrees. Right? So if we add 180, well, that's turning things around, right? If you've ever heard the expression, I turn things around 180 degrees, that's why we have that expression, because turning 180 degrees is turning completely around. At this point, that should be all we need to do to make the ball move in the way we want it to move. So we're ready to go ahead and play our game and see what happens. Now we should be able to actually play the game. Brick should disappear, ball's going to bounce off the bat, ball's going to bounce off of the walls as well. So when I start, there it goes, I can move, and I can see the ball's bouncing off the bat. Now I notice something, that the ball is bouncing really shallow when I get to the edge of the bat. Okay? Now, that's because of the line we drew. And we're now really, really shallow on top there, but that's okay. We'll address that later. But see, now the ball's coming in really shallow, but then I can move into the way and make it come up further. I think, though, I'd like to have it come up even further than that, rather than have it be so shallow off the bat. So I think we're going to do something different there. So in practical sense, in practicing with the bat, I noticed that the ball was coming off the bat at a very, at times, very steep angle. And so I said, you know what? Even though it seems like that might work really well, I don't like it very much. It makes for that, to get that really low angle of bounce off of the bat, and so it can make the ball go more side to side than up and down. I'd like to have more control going up and down, because the bricks are up, they're not down, or they're not sideways, right? So I want to make sure I'm giving more control over the bricks. So the question is, how do I if the ball hits the bat, how do I change it so that the ball's going to go further up? And here was the solution I found. Rather than thinking of the center of the ball and the center of the bat, I said, well, we'll still think of the center of the ball because I want to use the ball, because I'm going to change the direction of the ball. However, instead of thinking this of the center of the bat, I'm going to focus on a point below the bat. Right? So there's this point below the bat that we're going to use. And that point, we'll still do the same exact thing. We're going to draw a line essentially through those 2 points. The difference is, instead of being the center of the bat, we're going to be a little bit below the center of the bat. What that does is that makes the ball go up more than it will go sideways. And I want it up because I want it to go towards the bricks. Right? So that's what I'm going to do. So let's do that. In my code, it's a simple switch. It really is. Because all we're going to do, so I'm going to shut down this game. All we're going to do is, instead of using other.y, we're going to do other.y plus 32. Okay? Because that's going to add 32 pixels to y. That's going to push the coordinate that I'm using to set the point direction down below the bat. And we're still doing everything else, because we need to set that direction first before we rotate 180. Okay? So if you just make that little change, that is going to result in a much different game playing experience. So you just take your other, instead of other.y, it's other.y plus 32. So now, play the game and see what happens. Okay, so now we hit the ball. And now we're getting a higher angle off of the bat. Right? It's more up towards the bricks, not so much sideways. Right? So even when I get out towards the end there, whoops. That's a issue, but we'll see. Okay. Well, so here's the deal. One of the things we can do is we can kind of still cheat, because we still have the ability to press space and make the ball move back up towards the bricks. So I mean, it is a cheat, but it's something we left in because we haven't fixed. So maybe we should fix that. And maybe we should also fix the fact that so we should also probably fix the fact that when we start, I can't move the bat anywhere. Like, I can't move the ball with the bat. Right? We should probably fix that too. That's an easy fix. Tell you what, we'll do that first, and then we'll do that. Alright. So, first thing we need to do is we need to fix, as I said, we need to fix the fact that pressing space still makes the ball move even when the ball's already moving. Okay? We only want the ball to move once. Here's what we have to do overall. One, we're gonna create a flag, and that flag is going to control whether or not the ball will move if we press the space bar. So we actually have to add a new event. We're going to add the create event. Okay? And in the create event, we're just going to create a variable. So we're going to use the assign variable. Okay? I'm going to zoom in. I'm going to call the variable go, G-O. And I'm going to give it a value of false. So remember giving the variable a value of false means I'm making it a Boolean variable. I want it to be a Boolean variable because I basically want to say if go is false, then go ahead and start. Once go is false, or once we start, we'll flip go to true, and then every time that we press spacebar, nothing will happen because go is not true anymore. Right? So the first time we press spacebar, it'll turn go to true. And unless we restart the game, or restart the player, put the ball back on the bat. We want to move. Or we want to be able to start it off, right? So we're creating a variable as a flag. Then I'm going to switch over to my key press space. And all I'm going to do is add an if at the top. So if variable. Remember that's this one over here. Add this to the top. Because I don't want to do anything unless the go variable, we're in key press space, is false. So all of these things, the randomized needs to go inside, the random number needs to go inside, the direction variable needs to go inside, the set speed needs to go inside. All that stuff is going inside the if. So it should all be indented. Yep, go equal false. But then also we need to reassign the go variable at the very bottom. So I'm going to add an assigned variable at the very bottom to change the go variable to true so that this won't happen again. So again, we added an if statement at the top. If variable, go is equal, value is false. Okay? And then put everything that was already there in the if statement. So randomize, random, get random number, direction variable, set speed. All that stuff has to go inside the if variable because, or the if variable block. And then I added at the end an assigned variable to change the go value from false to true. Once I do all of that stuff, what should happen is that when I play the game and I press space and I keep pressing space, nothing happens. It gives me a save. So if I press space, if I keep pressing space, nothing is changing. So, yeah, if I press space, nothing changes. Okay? Now, that fixed one problem. That fixed our problem of pressing space. The other problem we have is if the ball is on top of the bat and the bat moves, then the ball should move with it. Okay? So if the ball is on top of the bat and the bat moves, then the ball should move with it. Well, if the ball is on top of the bat, that means go is false, right? If go is false, then we want to reset the coordinate, the x coordinate of the ball to the x coordinate of the bat. It's that simple. So we're gonna add a step event because we need a step event. Because that's the event we're going to use to determine whether or not whether we can move or not. So, add event. Step. Step. So we're going to add a step event. In the step event, I'm going to use the if variable again to check on the go variable. If go is equal to false, then I'm going to change the x coordinate of the ball to match the x coordinate of the bat. So here we go. I need, here we go, set instance variable. Click and drag that to the right of the go of the if variable. Just step. So if go is false, look, it already defaulted to x coordinate for us. All we need to do is do bat.x. So if I set my x coordinate to the bat's coordinate, x coordinate, right? The bat can only move left and right. So what? To the right, because I'm putting it inside the if variable. Okay. So if variable go equal to false, then set the instance variable of the ball, the x coordinate, to the bat's x coordinate. That should solve all of our problems now. Okay. Except for that part where I have to actually save. Uh-oh. didn't anybody tell me that? Bat isn't a OBJ bat. Hello. I knew that. I was just seeing if you knew that. OBJ bat, not just bat, right? We named the object OBJ bat, therefore we have to use the object name and not some magic name that I came up with. So now, before I move, here we go. Move the bat. Oh, ball moves with the bat. Okay, now I can start the ball whenever I want, and I don't restart the ball because go is false. And congratulations, we have a Brick Breaker game that works.